Both potential areas of tropical development are now invests, but will either of them become a tropical depression or storm? Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather, and it is great to see you on a Thursday. Hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, both areas in yellow are now active invest areas. We're going to take a look at both of those, talk about how those could be developing as we move into the weekend, some areas of very heavy rainfall associated with both, and we'll get into your island by island rainfall forecast as well. As always, I love to hear from my Meteo Mundo weather community. Let me know what's been going on in your area, what the weather has been like. You have a specific question about the forecast, you can drop that down in the comments section below as well. Okay, so the last few days we've had Invest 94L, and we have been monitoring this one here at Meteo Mundo for over a week. Well, guess what, friends? We finally now have Invest 95L. Yes, enough of basically a low-level kind of blob, if you will, to get an active invest area. So Invest 95L, winds are just 20 miles an hour. It's eking its way to the north and to the west. Now look, this is not going to organize into anything strong, and still the biggest story from this area will be the potential very heavy rainfall that it could bring to portions of Central America and the Yucatan. But now that the center is expected to stay offshore, as you can see in this area in yellow, the development area from the Hurricane Center, for about the next 36 hours or so, rather than diving back into Honduras shortly, we could potentially wrap up a tropical depression or even a tropical storm. So we're going to have a little bit more impacts for portions of Honduras and Guatemala and Belize and the Yucatan, and we'll talk more about that coming up. And then we have Invest 94L out here, which again is still very weak and disorganized. Before we get any further, let's kind of look at the overall. So we have the two tropical wave invest areas I've highlighted in red. We also have this cold front. And let me tell you something, for mid-October, this is a significant cold front that has dived deep into the southeast United States and is actually brushing central sides of the Bahamas, Cuba, and even the northern sides of the Yucatan. That's like a blockade. That is not going to allow either of these invests to travel too far north and west. The Gulf is closed for business. Neither of these will directly impact the Gulf Coast states. Let's get into kind of what's happening today, and then we'll deep dive into both of these. So we looked at 95L, 94L at the hour. We've actually had hurricane reconnaissance aircraft going in and out of the system. Notice it's back down to a yellow. That means it's just a 30% chance to develop it. Still a very small, disorganized system. You can see on the water vapor imagery here, the green is the moist air, the red is the dry air. It's still encompassed in an area of relatively dry air. So we really haven't gotten a more prominent low-level center to form. Winds are up to 35 miles an hour, but again, they're not enclosed within a low-level center, so that's why we don't have a tropical depression. And to be quite honest, I'm not expecting this to become a tropical depression as it passes by the Leeward Islands tonight. So this will be disorganized showers, some squalls, and some high sea conditions for places like Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, maybe as far south as Montserrat, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Martin area here, St. Bart's as well. Again, disorganized as it traverses off towards the west. It will get into the British and U.S. Virgin Islands tonight, and then through Puerto Rico and towards the Dominican Republic and Haiti as we go throughout the day tomorrow. If I bring over the visible satellite imagery, again, you can just clearly see we have some very weak bands around this, but nothing is really trying to spiral up. Elsewhere across the Lesser Antilles for today, it's been really spotty rain. There's been pockets of heavier rain. Guadeloupe, South, Dominica, Martinique. These are areas that won't be directly impacted by the invest, but a south wind as the invest passes to your north over the next 24 hours will feed in more moisture. So St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago, all with the opportunity for pockets of heavier downpours, but again, just nothing that's going to be really concentrated. Notice that there's some rain trying to come up from the mainland into Nueva Esparta at the hour as well. But again, the more concentrated rain, northern side of the Leeward Islands, and eventually into the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, where we've had a few scattered showers today, but friends, here it's going to get wetter starting tomorrow. We actually had a gorgeous sunset yesterday. This is from Palmas del Mar on the eastern side of Puerto Rico. Scott sent this picture in looking off towards the east. In the background there is Vieques. What a gorgeous sunset on Wednesday. Scott, appreciate you sending in that picture. Maybe not as pretty as the sunset the next couple of days if you don't like the stormy weather, but if you've been looking for some rain across the islands, we're going to get that for you here. We're also going to see more rain for the Dominican Republic and Haiti. It's been relatively quiet on this Thursday. A few scattered showers and storms trying to crop up at the hour, but nothing too significant. Same thing for the Turks, the Caicos as well. Again, not a lot of rain today, but there's more coming as we go down the road. Now, again, interesting in the Bahamas, you can see some of this moisture over Cuba that has surged into the central Bahamas. Well, when I bring on the radar data here, drop off the sat data, you can see that that rain has made a lot of Andros. And it's very wet over Andros, and some of that's trying to trickle over Nassau, New Providence as well, but that's really about the only game in town. There's been some extra cloud coverage through portions of the Bahamas for today, even a little bit of heavier thicker cloud coverage back down towards Exuma, but really the most rain has been right over the Andros area there. And that's going to kind of continue to be. We're just going to have this tongue of moisture kind of drifting through the central Bahamas, and that's the area that's going to have the best chance for showers. It's going to be wet over Cuba the next several days, and then as we go farther south, now we get more direct influences out of 95L. For my friends in Jamaica, a lot of you dropped in the comments section below yesterday, and I really appreciate it. You guys had some heavy rain across the island, a lot of Wednesday, even overnight. Starting around daybreak today, things have really cleared out. Haven't had as much rain during the daylight hours of this Thursday. Had a flash flood watch that was in effect until 5 o'clock p.m. local time on this Thursday. More than likely, that will be allowed to expire and not reissued, at least in the short term, because we haven't had a lot of rain today. But still, a lot of wet weather could spiral back in, and rain chances overall for Jamaica are relatively high the next few days, right on through the weekend. Same thing for our friends in Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman as well, where this tropical moisture will continue to feed into the area. And then obviously, we're going to see this moving into the Yucatan and Belize and Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. These are the areas that are going to get very wet from Invest 95L with scattered showers as you get back down towards Costa Rica and Panama. So that's what's happening on this Thursday. Friends, I want to take a real quick break and remind you guys, if you could do me a quick favor and like this video, I appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo, click that subscribe button right now if you want the latest forecasts across the Caribbean and the Bahamas and these tropical updates. Doing both of those helps the channel out more than you could imagine. We've been growing very nicely here at Meteo Mundo, but quite honestly, we need to continue to grow, and you guys are a big part of that. Again, just by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Thank you for sharing this with your family and friends. Thank you for finding other ways to support me here at the channel as well. Memberships, that's the join button. It's just 99 cents a month. Super things. You can donate any amount that you would like, and you can also find links to our PayPal and Venmo in the description below of this video. All right, let's get into, again, what's going to be happening with both of these invest areas. We'll start with Invest 95L. Again, because this is an invest, we now actually have our tropical models running. So let me bring those on. Those are our spaghetti plots that you guys see. I'll drop off this yellow area, which again is 30% chance. Now look, when we see this kind of coming up, you'll notice a couple of the models have it going almost due north into the southern side of the Gulf. You can almost discount those. There's no way that that cold front is going to allow this weak system to slip underneath it. It's going to have to get pushed west. So we're looking at a fairly tight cluster of most of the models here. Again, skirting the northern Honduras coastline near the Roatan area, and then maybe moving back inland over Guatemala or Belize, Dangriga, Belize City, San Pedro, even up to the southern sides of Quintana Roo could all be quote unquote landfall for whatever this becomes. Highest opportunity is just to become still a very wet, disorganized invest or a weak tropical depression. It's not fully out of the question that we do get Tropical Storm Nadine out of this, but if we get Nadine, it's going to happen in a hurry, and it's going to be a weak system. The biggest impact, I promise you, is going to be the amount of rain that could fall in this area of the Caribbean and into Central America and into the Yucatan as well. So let's go on over to our models here. Going to loop up and we'll take a look at this. Again, 30% chance in this yellow area. I'm going to drop off that formation zone. This is simply the rainfall. We'll look at the winds coming up here on the GFS model. This is slowly moving right now. It's going to pick up a little bit of forward speed, but again, you can clearly see here that on this Thursday, just a very wet, sloppy, disorganized system. Potentially throughout the day tomorrow, and then early on our Saturday, we could try and wrap up a center just before it moves back inland, okay? This would bring us maybe 35, 40 mile an hour winds. But the biggest thing is the amount of rain that it could bring. We're talking about 4 to 6, 8 inches of rain in a couple of spots, guys. 100 to 200 millimeters is not out of the question. It's obviously been wet in these areas from time to time over the last few days. It's going to get even wetter. Again, especially Honduras, north through Central America, and then to the Yucatan. For the first couple of days here, we're certainly going to see some wet weather for Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, but a lot of that should then be pulled away as whatever low-level center moves back over Mexico and dissipates there. Not really expecting this to emerge back into the Southwest Gulf. I'll show you the GFS has one ensemble member that tries to go a little bit squirrely in the far Southwest Gulf, but again, the cold front that's actively in the area is really going to shut things off here from moving any farther north. But again, could this either hold together or regenerate and then move back into Mexico? It's a possibility. But the biggest thing, again, is just the ample amount of rain that this is going to throw into this direction. Let's take a look at the winds associated with this. So we'll go over to our sustained winds at the surface and loop this up. Again, the GFS model had actually backed off of potential development the last 3 days, but today it's slightly more aggressive now that we have this active invest area and we can really start plotting these tropical models along this. But again, we're running out of time, which is good news. We don't want this thing to become anything strong in nature, but now you can clearly see that we have this donut hole again, and this is very early on Saturday morning. When we look at the winds associated with that, you start to see, again, on the northern side, we would support, these are sustained winds, tropical storm conditions. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that just before landfall, if this track holds together, we get Tropical Storm Nadine. I don't think that Invest 94L would develop before this. There could be a race to see which one is Nadine, which one is Oscar. There's a possibility that neither of them become named storms. If they do, they're going to be on the weaker side of the tropical storm strength. But again, for my friends in Belize and the Yucatan, you can clearly see that as we go through the day Saturday, weather starts to go downhill, especially Cozumel, Tulum South, and these sustained winds start to move on shore, and they'll be a little bit on the fresher side. So 35, 40 mile an hour winds, absolutely possible here for Quintana Roo back down towards Chechmal. And again, the model kind of loses it as it moves inland, but you get the idea that we're going to have some stronger winds right down the Belize coastline and into Guatemala potentially as well. Still a relatively compact storm, but fresh winds, and then obviously the rainfall is going to be quite significant as well. If I switch over to the NAM model, just to give you an idea real quickly on the NAM for what this could bring. If we look at this, it's a little bit more broad of a system, and it would actually bring more rain to Jamaica and the Cayman Islands a little bit longer, especially the Cayman Islands. Still can't rule out, just like we had yesterday in Jamaica, pockets of very heavy rainfall, nice tropical downpours. Generally speaking, again, as this spins and moves off towards the west, it's going to be more about Central America and Mexico, but I don't want to discount how broad this system could be and some of the heavier rain it could bring to Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and portions of Cuba as well. So that's kind of what 95L looks like in the short term. Let's take a look at what 94L looks like, and then we'll get into the ensemble members of the models that I've just been showing you as well. So again, 30% chance, which is actually slightly lower. So we're back down to a yellow here. So I'll drop that off. Let's go ahead and load up the model, loop it up. Give me just 1 second to bring that back online, and we'll go over the next few days with this one as well. I'm going to bring this out here all the way until Tuesday. Again, on the GFS model, you're looking at a very weak storm moving through the northern side of the Leeward Islands and kind of brushing the greater Antilles. Again, it cannot go much farther north and west. It's going to run into that blockade as it gets into the Turks of the Caicos. So if I throw on the tropical models associated with this one, and I pause this for a second as well, we have two different scenarios how this could play out, right? Either it's going to bend back north into the Atlantic, and these are actually, I think, too far west. If it's going to make that turn, it's going to be near the Turks and the Caicos and then staying east of the Bahamas. Or as a very weak system, it kind of goes underneath that ridge and slips back down into the Caribbean towards Haiti and the eastern side of Cuba and Jamaica, but that would be a really weak, sloppy system, more than likely not even a depression, okay? So that's kind of how this will move. As far as its intensity, we can see it on the GFS model here. It then runs into that ridge and almost kind of back builds with some heavier rain back north and to the east, okay? So the GFS model on the deterministic is kind of trying to pull this back north and east, but generally speaking, it's just a really elongated, sloppy system that never fully develops. Once again, that means that some of the highest potential for impacts could be locally heavy rain for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and Haiti and maybe the Turks and the Caicos. But I don't have a big confidence on any of this as of yet, to be quite honest. I mean, these are scenarios that come into play, but we'll just have to see how this moves or if this even develops. Again, the models are hinting at just a very low chance of that happening. When we go over to the wind field associated with this, and I'll keep the spaghetti plots on as well, you can see the GFS is slightly farther to the north. It gets to the Turks and the Caicos. It runs into the southeast side of that ridge of high pressure, and then it doesn't really do much of anything after that, okay? A little bit of wind, a little bit of squally weather, but nothing that's extremely organized with this. You can actually see here towards the end of the run how, watch that purple kind of regenerate in this area. That's where it would be. But these winds, again, aren't consolidated, and these winds are more like 20 to 25 sustained with some higher gusts. So we're going to kick up the sea conditions. We're going to have some marine problems. We're going to have some squally weather, but getting a depression or a storm out of this, at least on the GFS, doesn't look to be extremely plausible. But let's go over to the NAM, see what the NAM shows. We'll start off, might as well, with the winds. So let's pull this out again over the next several days, and I'll show you the European model. And the European model continues to be slightly more aggressive with this, meaning that it has a slightly higher chance for this to become a tropical depression. But here is the NAM model running over the next couple of days. Again, no one is saying, none of the models, by the way, are saying that this is going to wrap up as it moves through the Leeward Islands tonight. Again, just kind of squally conditions. If it could be happening, it's plausible near Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic. More than likely, even the U.S. and British Virgin Islands won't see this as well. But again, on the NAM, over the next couple of days, you don't see much, right? Make sure we go as far out as we can here, loop this back up, but nothing really, a very organized system here. We see that broad spin, but that's about it. As far as the rainfall goes, let's go on over to reflectivity. Look at that real quick. Loop that up. There's going to be more moisture with the NAM associated with this, and I actually buy into that, right? I kind of like the solution of the rainfall for the NAM being just much more elongated and spotty, and I have pretty high rain chances for these areas and a lot of the Leeward Islands as well, associated with what, again, is going to be a wet, sloppy system, Turks and Caicos as well. But again, no real low-level center of circulation, but some of that moisture could actually try and drive back down into Cuba and Jamaica as we get into Monday and Tuesday of next week. So now let's look at things overall. The European model is actually more robust now on 95L. The chance of a tropical depression, it almost has at 100%. All right, we have an invest now. The next step up would be a depression, then a named tropical storm, okay? And really, we're not going much further than what we already have to get ourselves a tropical depression. It's still fairly robust on what would be happening over Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic and Haiti. But again, it's not as high as what it was, and certainly not as high as what it was over the Leeward Islands. So now let's take a look at the GFS ensemble members. Again, we were looking at the deterministic, kind of the main model run. Now the different members. Again, we do have one or two showing that area of low pressure drifting over the Yucatan and back into the southwest side of the Gulf of Mexico. Again, our ridge of high pressure keeps it from gaining too far north latitude as it continues to traverse off towards the west. But not a huge cluster here, but we can see a few blips on the old radar. As far as what's happening with Invest 94L, nothing really, guys. The ensembles here just really aren't picking up on that. It's still flip-flopped when we look at the European model, still more active with 94L here over the Greater Antilles. Again, still a split decision on where this will go if it actually holds a low-level center. We see a few eking back north and east. We see a few drifting back south and west. None of them are on the stronger side, but the European model still, at least for the most part, wants to try and have some kind of weak system there, more than likely a depression. It does show a little bit more here and the western side of the Caribbean than what we've seen. So it does bring a little bit more credence as to having Invest 95L become a depression or a very weak tropical storm. But again, neither of these are going to be on the stronger side. So again, for 94L, it's the same areas I've been mentioning, and all we have to do is watch. There's absolutely no preparation that's needed. It's the Leeward Islands, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Turks and Caicos, and maybe the southeast Bahamas. But that would be just for some rainfall if this can throw some moisture your way. But these areas, again, a little bit of wind, maybe it's an opportunity for some heavier rainfall. Now, a bigger widespread impact is actually going to be what it does to the marine forecast. Man, you've got the impacts of that cold front. You have both invest areas trying to wrap up. You've got a lot of spots where you may not want to be offshore. And please check in with the local marine forecast. But I'm just telling you right now, swells are going to be a big issue for the Lesser Antilles, portions of the Bahamas, the Turks and the Caicos, and the western side of the Caribbean as well. And there'll be some rougher surf and sea conditions as these storms begin to evolve as well. So please keep that in mind for the mariners, the boating interests, and a lot of our spots not looking absolutely fantastic. All right, now let's get into the rain. Again, huge system with 95L, a lot of rain. Some of it could be very significant for the week ahead. Again, you see a lot of dark reds. That's 4 to 6 or even 8 inches of rain, 100 to 200 millimeters. But you notice along the coast of Belize and Guatemala and Quintana Roo, you see the kind of the whites and the purples. That's 10 to 12 inches of rain here on the European model. That's 250 or 300 millimeters of rain. It could be exceptionally high, and so there is going to be some flooding concerns. Please check in with your local governments for any messaging as far as any potential flood watches or flash flood advisories or warnings or anything like that. Heavy rain for the Cayman Islands, close to Jamaica, over Cuba, over portions of the Bahamas. And again, on the European model, we're slightly north of the Greater Antilles in general, but pockets of heavy rain possible, lighter amounts for the Lesser Antilles, but still some rain there. When we take a look at it on the GFS model, so we just looked at the European model, this is the rainfall total on the GFS model. If I zoom in here, and again, this just takes us until what? Early Tuesday, I believe. If we look at this again, the GFS is right in line with the European model. We're along coastal Quintana Roo towards Chetumal and back down towards Belize. You've got, again, 10 inches of rain, 8, maybe 6 if we're lucky. The GFS is slightly farther north. I don't know if we're going to have this tight of a gradient. I would expect more rain than that. Roatan comes in at over 5 inches of rain there. Same thing for the other coastal islands of Honduras. And again, nice little big bullseye right here. So I think anywhere this thing tracks 10 inches of rain or higher is possible. Even up towards Cancun, again, 5, 6 inches of rain for Cozumel. The GFS model, very heavy rain is possible for Grand Cayman. We don't have as much for Jamaica, but still some heavy local downpours are possible there. And then again, back over towards what 94L might bring. It's just a real big hodgepodge, guys. Again, pockets of heavier rain here or there. You can see that over the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico and Haiti and the Dominican Republic and portions of the Turks and the Caicos. Northern side of the Leeward Islands here, not as much. Still pockets of heavier rain over the Lesser Antilles in general, back into the Windward Islands as well. It's going to be really spotty though. Can't really pinpoint any one spot. This is just such an elongated mess of a storm. That's kind of what you get sometimes with this. So when we look at the rainfall forecast island by island, Northwest Bahamas, not a lot. Central and Southeast Bahamas, a better chance. Turks and Caicos, even higher, as 94L puts on the brakes near the Turks and the Caicos Saturday and Sunday. Cuba just stays with some wet weather. Cayman Islands, highest rain chance should be tomorrow, falling off a bit Saturday, Sunday. It's going to get wet. It could be potentially flooding in portions of Belize, including Belize City. Again, please check in with your local government and officials on that. I'll keep you updated here as well. Cancun and Cozumel, very high rain chance, maybe even a little bit higher than I have on Sunday, but certainly very high late Friday and into Saturday. Jamaica's rain chances are solid, back down to a 40% chance on Sunday. Dominican Republic's rain chances should just continue to climb over the weekend. Puerto Rico stays with relatively high chances. It really all depends on whether that Invest back builds east or moves south and west or moves north and east, where eventually on Sunday, where we see these rain chances fall over places like Puerto Rico in the U.S. and Virgin Islands, but certainly high tomorrow and Saturday. Not much rain for Bermuda. High rain chances in Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis the next several days. Not as much on Sunday. Same thing for Antigua and Barbuda. And you're going to see most of the Lesser Antilles like that as well. Highest rain chances tomorrow. Still fairly high, especially on the northern side on Saturday. Tailing off a bit down towards St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Saturday, but still 50% chance. In most areas, around a 50% chance on Sunday, slightly higher Antigua, Barbuda. Barbados, decent rain chance for tomorrow, 60% chance. Again, locally heavy rain, some swells on the western side of the island. Keep that in mind for our mariners. 40 Saturday, Sunday. Grenada, 50% chance Friday, Saturday, 40 on Sunday. Scattered rain for Trinidad and Tobago, Suriname and Guyana. Slightly lower again late into the weekend. Nueva Esparta, 40% chance tomorrow. Scattered rain Saturday and Sunday. Still not a direct impact for the ABC Islands. Some pockets of rain, but nothing that will be exceptionally organized from either of those invests. Friends, I appreciate you guys. I really do. Thank you for finding us across all of our other social media. We do some exclusive content on TikTok, so find us there. TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video like Scott did today from Puerto Rico, mymediamundo@gmail.com. Again, while you're down there, thank you for liking and subscribing. You have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comment section below as well. Friends, again, appreciate you finding your home for Caribbean weather right here at Meteo Mundo. I'll keep you updated. I'll be back with the latest tomorrow. Until then, you have a great one, and I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.